We are live now.
Yeah.
Good afternoon and a very hearty welcome to all of you. First of all, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Mrs. Kanika Bindra, an educationalist, for joining us today at this online platform to share her views on the topic causes of environmental degradation in India. Environment actually plays an important role in healthy living and the existence of life on planet Earth. Earth is a home for different living species, and we all are dependent on the environment for food, air, water, and other needs. But advances in science and technology have helped us to exploit the environment for our benefit, but we have also introduced pollution and caused environmental damages. So, to understand the causes of environmental degradation, we have with us today's guest speaker. Without taking much of your time, I would like to welcome Mrs. Kanika Bindra to share her views on the very relevant topic of today, which is part of our curriculum of LLM. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your valuable time for our institute. The audience is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and a very good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be back and to be in touch with everybody in any form. So let's come to the topic today. Today's topic of discussion is industrial pollution is a major cause for degradation of the environment in India. Now, we all know that the world has advanced a lot scientifically, technologically. Development has been the prime focus for every country, every place on this planet. We have received a lot of benefits by moving ahead, by developing industrial wise because of the advancement of science. But unfortunately, we've had to pay a very heavy price for industrialization. No doubt, industrialization has given means of livelihood to millions and millions of people who are skilled or unskilled. They have been given their livelihoods. They have been given a means of income that they can run their families. But in the process, we all as citizens, we all as human beings have forgotten that we all in some way or the other are contributing towards the damage, the degradation of the environment. Now, what is degradation? Degradation means that when you are lowering the standard of something to a worse state, that means the environment is being affected to a level that the environment's quality and the environment's ability to give much to us is going down. And unknowingly, we people do not realize that it is the industries, actually, the pollution that has been created from industries, from factories, from mills, from plants, from nuclear energy, from various kind of upliftments that we think we have achieved a lot. We feel honored, we feel blessed that life has changed now completely. We don't have to struggle so much to do small little things that in life which we used to do with a lot of difficulty. And all that is because of the advancement of science and technology. But industrial pollution has played a very big role in giving a very adverse effect to our planet. That is why today we are giving so much of importance to industrial pollution. The world in the 19th century started to progress and expand scientifically and through technology. The world has changed immensely as of today in all aspects. बहुत तरक्की कर लिया हमने, पर उसका एक बहुत बड़ा प्राइस भी पे किया है. डेवलपमेंट हो गया है बहुत ज्यादा, बहुत इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ हो गई है, एडवांसमेंट हो गया है, हर चीज बहुत इजी हो गई है इंसान के लिए. बट इन द प्रोसेस हम सब भूल गए हैं कि हम एक ऐसे वातावरण में रहते हैं, ऐसे एक इन्वायरमेंट में रहते हैं जो हमें, इट्स अ गिफ्ट ऑफ गॉड, इट्स गिफ्टेड टू अस. वी डोंट हैव टू पे एनीथिंग फॉर द इन्वायरमेंट. इट हैज बीन गिवन टू अस फॉर फ्री. एयर, वाटर, sunlight, forests, animals, aquatic animals. It's our environment. It's the ecological sphere all around us. But we so involved in progressing economically and scientifically, we've forgotten that we are losing out and going through major losses, which are much more than the advancement of today. It is human nature to abuse what it can. Thus, we abuse land because we regard it as a commodity that it belongs to us. But if we start regarding that we belong to land as a commodity, but naturally we are going to respect and honor it to its fullest. But because we are taking everything for granted, see, we don't have to pay for anything. We breathe in oxygen. We have air, water, light, sunlight, different weathers, everything we have. We don't have to pay anything for it. It's been gifted to us. But soon a time, it's not very far in life, that soon a time is going to come that we may be advancing as much as we want economically and be one of the most developed countries in the world. We are not a developed country as yet, but we are aiming to be one of the developed countries in the world. But for that, we have to look into what we are doing and how we are affecting our environment. What is our environment? Our environment is our surroundings, where we live. Everything around us is our environment. The purpose for industrialization, as I said, is economic growth. And people have had a lot of advantage in growing, but it has caused a lot of destruction. And there are lots of reasons. There are lots of types of pollutions that have affected the entire planet. It is not only India. We're talking about India because we're still a developing country. But otherwise, we all need to keep a thorough check and watch on how we are moving ahead. We're thinking about our future. No, we're not. We're thinking just for the present. We're living just for the moment. We're not thinking for the future. Now, you can say that I will not be there in the future, but we are forgetting that we have children and generations to come who are also going to be needing all these environmental, natural resources that we have been gifted with. And every single generation coming next to us, we are not going to be staying here. We are not mortal. We are immortal. We are going to go from this world. But why leave this world a barren place? Why leave it a place where there is only pollution and everything that we get from nature free of cost? A time will come, either most of those things will not be available or they will have to be bought with a very heavy price. And due to this, many people are going to suffer. Many people. So let's come to the point first to see that what are the main objectives, the main types of pollutions that affect our environment. There are mainly quite a number, but the main ones are air pollution, water and land pollution, thermal pollution, noise pollution. Now, all these things, all these pollutions are connected with industrial development. We get all these pollutions from the industries that we are developing. No industry can ever function 100% without polluting or letting out some waste or pollution. It is just next to impossible. Because whenever we try to bring anything into existence, or whenever we try to manufacture or uh, produce anything in an industry, there are a lot of remains that have to be discarded. And those remains that are to be discarded are the pollutants, actually. They are the ones that go and pollute the most important natural resources that have been given to us. If we talk about air pollution, a factory while functioning or an industry while functioning, firstly, it is on a very large scale. It caters to loads and hundreds and thousands of people working. It gives them livelihood. People are advancing, so they don't pay attention to what is happening actually. Life has become such a busy routine for everybody that people don't have time to think that what are going to be the adverse effects of it in the future. They think they're living for today, and that is it. Air pollution. How does air get polluted? Every factory or most factories and industries release smoke, toxins, such gases that have to be let out into the air, which cannot be left within the territory or the campus of the industry. So they have to let it out. So by letting it out, it goes out into the air, which is very pure. Air was a very pure and clean source of energy. And the beauty is that all our resources, these ones that I'm talking about, the natural resources, most of them are inexhaustible. But there are certain things that are happening that which may convert them into inexhaustible resources. We have to do mining. We have to do certain kind of digging in various places to get out inexhaustible resources. And why are those inexhaustible resources needed? Because they are needed for industrialization. So in the process of trying to use those resources that we are going to get from within the earth, we forget that उसे तो हमने प्राप्त कर लिया, पर उन रिसोर्सेज ने हमारे नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज को हैम्पर कर दिया, असर कर दिया. जैसे कि आई सेड अबाउट एयर पोल्यूशन. अब एयर पोल्यूशन से सिर्फ एयर पोल्यूट नहीं हो रही, इंसान को, जो कि इंसान एक समय था कि बहुत हेल्दी होता था क्योंकि एनवायरनमेंट बहुत प्योर होती थी, एयर बहुत प्योर होती थी, तो उनको बीमारियां भी कम होती थी. आज की तारीख में just because of air pollution, people are falling ill, they're having problems in their lungs, they have throat, eyes, they're getting cancer. There are so many things that are happening because air does not stay consistent in one place. The way water travels, the same way air does not stay stagnant in one place. Air moves because of the wind, because of the temperature, because of the weather conditions. There was a time that the world had proper weather conditions, like we used to have our winters, our summers, our autumn and spring on time. But because of this pollution that industries are letting out, our weather conditions have changed. Today, no weather is predictable. Today, we cannot decide which weather is going to come when. And is the weather going to be the same as what it was earlier? No. I will give you the reasons. I will tell you the main causes for why the weather has changed and why the climate has changed. But first, we'll discuss the reasons that cause pollution. So, one was air pollution. So, I won't make it very lengthy, I'll make it short. Then we come to water. Now, water pollution is a very easy source for an industry to reach out to. When an industry is set up, it lets out waste and whatever pollutants that it wants to. And if they are in a liquid form, they may be full of toxins and chemicals, but they all flow. So because they flow, it is easy to make a path for them towards rivers, water bodies, ponds, where the water, when mixed with these toxins, these pollutants, will not remain stationary. आपने देखा होगा पानी एक जगह स्थिर नहीं रहता, बहता है. बहते हुए पानी में अगर कोई चीज डालो तो वो आगे निकल जाती है. तो इंसान ये सोचता है कि वो आगे निकल गई, तो हमने ऐसा कुछ हार्म तो किया नहीं. But we are forgetting that we are not the only people who are running industries. There are millions of people who are running small units, large units, industries, factories, production houses. And mostly in earlier times, when the 19th century, when we started advancing in technology, people started making their industries near riverbeds, near water bodies. Why? Because since they could not keep that pollutant within the periphery of the industry, within the limit of the industry, you cannot collect it. अब अगर आपके घर में भी अगर कूड़ा इकट्ठा हो रहा तो आप सारा इकट्ठा तो कर नहीं सकते, उसको फेंकना तो है कहीं ना कहीं. तो उसी तरीके से एक इंडस्ट्री में जब लार्ज स्केल में प्रोडक्शन चल रही है और there is so much of garbage and there's so much of waste that is coming out, it has to be let out somewhere. So where does it go? It goes to the streams, to water bodies, to flowing water, rivers, ponds, wherever there is water where it will not stay stagnant and it will move on. But when down, as the water flows, there are more and more industries which have also been set up for whatever purpose that they have set up their production units. They also let their waste and pollutants into the water. So what is going to be the outcome? The outcome is going to be that everybody, if they are going to pollute the water, if they are going to throw their deposits, their waste and their pollutants into water, a time will come when those pollutants will also have no place to go to. Why? Because those pollutants are a mixture of toxins and chemicals. Certain chemicals and toxins which never finish, which never can be wiped out, and they remain there forever, if not forever, but for maybe for a very long period of time. And then what happens because of that? It affects the aquatic life. Now, what is aquatic? You know, you must have heard the word aqua. Aqua means water. So aquatic life means living organisms that live in water, plants that grow in water, and they survive in water. Now, how do you think that when with a mixture of toxins and chemicals and various other materials that are not meant to be there in thrown anywhere around in our environment, go and affect the water bodies, it is positively going to finish the species of plants and animals that live in water. There are hundreds and thousands of species that have already got extinct. Extinct means कि दुनिया में हुआ करते थे पर आज वो नहीं है, और कई चीजों का तो पता भी नहीं है कि वो एक्सटिंक्ट हो चुकी। कितनी वाटर बॉडी की कितने ऑर्गेनिजम्स और प्लांट्स हैं जिनका कुछ ना कुछ फायदा और एडवांटेज किसी ना किसी फॉर्म में हमारे एनवायरनमेंट को होता था, बट क्योंकि हमने वो टॉक्सिन्स को वहां थ्रो कर दिया है, वहां पे अक्यूमुलेट कर दिया गया है, इसलिए वो सारा का सारा aquatic life, living system, plants that grow in water, they all either die or they survive in unhealthy conditions, because every living organism needs its respective means for survival. हर चीज जो जिंदा है, हर इंसान, हर जानवर, हर प्लांट, हर ऑर्गेनिज्म, हर बैक्टीरिया को जिंदा रहने के लिए उसको एक वातावरण चाहिए होता है, उसको एक एनवायरनमेंट चाहिए होता है। तो वो एनवायरनमेंट अगर उससे छीन लिया जाए तो कुछ समय बाद ऐसी स्थिति आ जाती है कि या तो वो उसमें सर्वाइव बड़ी मुश्किल से करेंगे और इन द प्रोसेस उनको नुकसान भी बहुत पहुंचेंगे, और या फिर वो इस दुनिया से बिल्कुल खत्म हो जाएंगे। और इस दुनिया में बहुत सी चीजें, बहुत से जानवर, लिविंग beings, we are not talking about human beings, but we are talking about living beings like animals and plants, they're getting extinct. Land also plays a similar role. Land pollution, it also plays a similar role like water pollution. Now, there are certain toxins and chemicals and products that are released from industries, which need to be let out, cannot be accumulated inside the campus of the industry. So they are let out in open land areas around the industry. Now, all those pollutants and all the waste that has been thrown out on the land let out gases, because they are a mixture of various toxins and various chemicals, out of which we don't even know what kind of gases are released, because nobody is actually working on the process of understanding that when toxins and gases and chemicals mixed with different kind of waste are thrown out in the open, they affect the land. We do not realize that that land can become barren. Barren means कि उस land पे कोई भी चीज अब उग नहीं सकती, उसकी उपज नहीं हो सकती। उस land पे कभी भी cultivation और plantation नहीं हो सकती। क्यों? क्योंकि उस land के नीचे तक वो toxins और जो waste है वो इतने अंदर तक पहुंच जाता है कि वो उस land को बिल्कुल useless बना देता है। So land also plays a very, very important pollutant role, just like water. Then we talk about thermal pollution. Now, what is thermal? Thermal is anything that generates heat. Now, that heat generation could be for nuclear weapons, for nuclear plants, for various nuclear requirements that we need for the growth of some industry or some production house, where it is a must to have a nuclear system or a thermal energy plant. And for that, what do we need mostly? For thermal energy, we usually need water. The main source is water. And the irony is that the water that is used has to be brought up to a certain high degree of temperature so high, and the heat of the water is so high, it rises so much that that causes and pollutes the environment, it pollutes the surroundings where we are living, the ecosystem, the ecology that we are living in. We'll talk about ecology just now. So, thermal plants, nuclear weapons, they all have been made for a purpose. But that purpose can be solved only if they have been used constructively. But thermal energy is needed for manufacturing and industrialization in various industries because of the advancement of science and technology. But when that water, we can, since we've advanced so much, that water can be brought down to a certain temperature and then released into water bodies, into the oceans or into rivers or ponds. But the problem is that the water that is released from the nuclear plants and nuclear weapons while being made, that water is released into the water bodies in the same form of temperature that it was being used while manufacturing or while conserving or consuming thermal energy. Now, water also flows in a certain temperature. The whole world has water bodies, and the temperature of water bodies in every area is according to the climate of that area. So if there is a water body where the water climate, where the water conditions climatically should be a normal temperature, and the thermal energy plants, they flow their water that is heated, high temperatured water into the plant, into the riverbeds, there is going to be a major setback. Various. Firstly, it lessens the oxygen in the water because the temperature is not correct. So when both the waters merge, they have an effect on the aquatic life and the plants that grow in water. So because of that also, as I had spoken about thermal earlier, that water going and being transmitted as a pollutant into the water bodies will go and ruin the life of the living organisms and the plants or things related to water. That water becomes contaminated. Contaminated means उसकी ऐसी स्थिति पहुंच जाती है कि वो ना पीने लायक रहता है, ना वो इस्तेमाल करने लायक रहता है, ना उसका कोई उपयोग हो सकता है. वो पानी है, बस पानी के फॉर्म में किसी भी जगह अक्यूमुलेट कर सकता है. एक वाटर बॉडी बन के वहां पे वाटर अक्यूमुलेट, अगर जैसे कि ये पोल्यूटेंट्स इंडस्ट्री से बाहर फेंक के इकट्ठे किए जाते हैं, तो वहां पे जाके वो क्या क्या रिलीज करेगा हमें खुद नहीं पता. हम इतने इन्वॉल्व हैं अपने इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन और इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ में कि हम भूल गए हैं कि हमें कितनी चीजों को हार्म कर रहे हैं. Now there's one more thing that is also a very big source of pollution. That is noise. Now you'll wonder, what is noise pollution? Haven't you seen? Don't go far. Haven't you seen that on the road, when traffic is moving and there are thousands of people moving on the road with their vehicles, their two-wheelers, their four-wheelers, they are honking, they are blowing their horns, they are letting out gases, they are letting out fumes that are not supposed to be let out because of petroleum being burnt, whatever reason, but they are creating a lot of noise. So that noise pollution is there. But just now we're talking about the noise pollution that we get from industries. Now, what are those? The noise pollution that we get from industries are generators. Now, in our houses, we use generators which are very small. Whether if they're making sound, we don't come to know also if it's making sound. But when you need generators for functioning in factories and industries, they are supposed to be humongous, huge, very large size. And it's but obvious that when a big size machinery is in function, it is going to make sound. It is going to make sound to a level which is going to be very disturbing. So it is not only the generators, it is the machines, the looms, the compressors, the exhaust fans. Now in our houses, we use little, small exhaust fans. But in factories, we don't use small exhaust fans. They are of no use there. There, the exhaust fan sizes are so huge that they may be larger than maybe a size of a small room or maybe a few people put together. I'm just saying a general measurement of the size of an exhaust fan. And those exhaust fans, they make so much noise that the people working in those industries and factories, their hearing gets impaired. They cannot hear properly because they're so used to that sound throughout the day that is coming from their generators or from their exhaust fans or from the furnace. Now, you know what a furnace is? A furnace is where fossil fuels or fire is burnt. There are lots of industries that function only with the help of fire. They have to have large furnaces, which are big, huge halls, maybe huge room-sized furnaces, which have to be keep burning throughout the day till the production is going on. So those are also now, ancient times, they used to be man-made and they used to be used with fossil fuels like with wood and all. But now, since the world has advanced and they have electric furnaces now, so that was also going to make noise. So there is so much of sound pollution, there is so much of noise pollution because of all these things that they affect the human beings who are working in those units. So in some way or the other, all these things, they play a role in polluting our entire environment, our surroundings. What is our surrounding? What is our surrounding? Our surrounding is our environment. The conditions in which we live, that is our surrounding. Here it is related to land, air, water, in which people, animals, and plants live. That is our environment, our surrounding. The environment in the real world that has the living as well as non-living type of surroundings on this earth. तो हमारे इर्द गिर्द जो भी है वो हमारा environment है और उस environment की purity को maintain करना हमारा moral duty. It is important to maintain it, which we do not. Even today, industries are growing economically. They are producing non-stop. They are working 24/7 with the rotation of labor working there. But they're not taking care of their waste, the pollutions that they are passing out into the environment. You must have heard of the word global warming. Do you know that the temperature of the earth is no more what it used to be in ancient times? Haven't you seen that? हम अक्सर कहते हैं बहुत गर्मी हो गई है, वेदर बहुत बदल गया है, अब ठंड भी बहुत कम रहती है, मौसम बदल गया है, गर्म हो गया. Why? The surface of the earth's surroundings, everything on this earth is getting accumulated with a temperature which is being collected in the outer atmosphere of the earth. And that is the reason. That is called global warming. It heats the earth, the climate, and it's gradual heating of Earth's surface, ocean, and atmosphere. Everything gets heated. That is why glaciers are melting. Do you know what glaciers are? Glaciers are huge chunks of ice, snow, which are in certain hemispheres, which are in certain parts of the world. Like, for example, the North Pole is supposed to be the coldest part of the world, the planet. There are reasons for every area and every country in this world to have a certain weather. And again, it is a natural source. We all have been designed to live in certain weather conditions. There are some people who live in places which are very warm countries, where there is no snow, where there is no rainfall also, or where there is uh, no autumn or spring. But what is happening now is that places where there is no sunlight coming and there is no energy of light, heat energy, still those places, those icebergs, those glaciers are melting. Why? वहां तो रोशनी और गर्मी भी नहीं है, वहां तो कितने कितने दिन सूरज नहीं निकलता, वहां तो कितने कितने महीने हमें रोशनी देखने को नहीं मिलती. People live in that condition. बट उसके बावजूद फिर ऐसी क्या वजह है कि वो जो excuse me, I'm sorry, I was being interrupted. Those areas are also being affected. ठीक है, we live in Uttaranchal. Uttaranchal seems to go through various weathers. We have winters, we have summers, we have monsoons, we have autumn, spring, all kind of weathers. Haven't you noticed that now on hill stations also you need air conditioners and fans put up in hotels or houses or rooms because the weather has become very, very warm. The temperature of the world, of the atmosphere, has gone up immensely. And this is one of the examples is that glaciers and snow-covered peaks are melting without any access of heat. But they are getting access of heat through the greenhouse effect. They are. Now, what is the greenhouse effect? The greenhouse effect is, it is a layer which goes and gets created on the outer layer of the atmosphere of the earth. What happens is that since there is so much of deforestation, that means there is so much of cutting of wood, there is so much of natural resource being depleted and finished. So whatever heat that is being secreted from industries, from any kind of development that we are trying to work on, it goes and gets accumulated on the inner layer of the atmosphere of the earth, and it does not. The light, sunlight, and sun do penetrate the layer, outside layer of the earth, and come into the earth and give us sunlight and air, sorry, sunlight and the sun. But when it has to go, it doesn't go. It gets accumulated within the earth's surface, within the earth's layer, within the earth's atmosphere. Why? Because of carbon dioxide. Do you know what is carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide, forests, plants, plantation, greenery, all these are responsible for taking and controlling carbon dioxide in the world. The oxygen that we get, which is free of cost, for which we don't have to pay a price at all. We get it from our plants. We get it from our trees. We get it from our forest reserves. We get it from water. We get it from various sources. But if everything is going to deplete, and if we are going to finish our sources of getting oxygen, and there is going to be accumulation of carbon dioxide in the air, it is but obvious that it is going to go and get collected in the greenhouse gases, because the greenhouse gases have a tendency to trap CO2, that is carbon dioxide, doesn't have a tendency to release it. They trap it. So because of the trapping, where does it go? It comes back to the earth. It doesn't go out of into outer space. It doesn't go out of the planet or the outer layer of the space. It remains within the atmosphere and comes back to the earth. And the gases that or the chemicals that are released, for example, like I said, carbon dioxide, methane, different kind of gases, they're very light in weight. So since they're very light in weight, they get trapped in the greenhouse very easily. And they have no outlet. They can come back towards the earth, but they cannot go out of the earth's hemisphere or the earth's atmosphere. So what is happening? Why do we call it global warming? Because I'll give you an example. You park your car in hot climate, or when the weather is changing and it's become very hot, you park your car outside where there is no shade. You will see that sunlight and heat of the sun will penetrate through the car, within the car, and get accumulated inside. आपने देखा होगा गाड़ी बहुत गर्म हो जाती है, but it knows how to penetrate and get inside the car, but it does not know how to get out of the car. That is the case with the gases and carbon dioxide and the temperature of the earth, which is rising. It is because it goes and gets accumulated in the greenhouse effect, or where the greenhouse gases lie, stored, trapped, and they are reverted back to the earth. So that is the reason why there is so much of global warming on this planet. And we need to work on it. We need to work on it tremendously. So then our government and various scientists, they came up with a solution. They thought that if this continues, the earth will not be a place to live in anymore. There may be a time when we will all need to have or buy oxygen, because the source of oxygen is our ecology, which is around us, our environment. And when we are not receiving it, and that oxygen, air, water, sunlight, everything are our main sources of survival. if we do not get these natural resources, because they are supposed to be inexhaustible. But if they exhaust, because the population of the world is also going up so immensely, so drastically, that everybody needs something or the other. And instead of making forest reserves or having reservoirs or having uh, parks and gardens, no doubt the governments have started working on maintaining greenery in metropolitans or in cities, but not to the level that is required because the population is going up tremendously. So, what happens is that as the population is going up, jungles are being created, but not jungles of trees, not plantation, not greenery. Concrete jungles are being created. Now, what do you mean by concrete jungles? Concrete का मतलब होता है सीमेंट, सख्त, जो टूट नहीं सकता, जो खराब नहीं हो सकता, जो स्थिर रहता है सालों से. Haven't you seen monuments? हजारों साल पुरानी मॉन्यूमेंट्स आपको आज भी देखने को मिल रही, जैसे ताजमहल. डिप्लीट, वो खराब नहीं हुआ, वहीं का वहीं है. क्योंकि हमारी जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वो आती ही हमारे पास अपने इन्वायरमेंट से. तो कॉन्क्रीट जंगल्स तो रेडी हो रहे हैं, बिल्डिंग पे बिल्डिंग. आपको कहीं शायद किसी के घर में गार्डन दिखेगा. देयर आर सोसाइटीज नाउ, देयर आर बिग high multi-storied buildings, but you will rarely get to see lots of trees planted in those areas. They are working on it, but we really need to work a lot on it, immensely. Every person as a human being needs to contribute to plantation, because that is our main source, and our ecosystem is actually which controls the entire living organisms on this planet. And if anything is getting extinct from this planet, it is because of the pollution and the weather conditions, the temperature of the earth going up so tremendously that it is difficult for those living organisms, like maybe some animals and plants, to survive. A tree can be chopped within a few minutes, but it takes years to grow. So, how do you think we are going to survive if we are going to remove all means of survival? If we are going to finish and deplete everything that we need in our environment to survive? So then came into existence a new theory brought up by scientists and by various researchers. And they came up with a term called sustainable development. Now, what is sustainable development? Sustainable development means that whatever we have, whatever means of resources that we have, that we need for survival, should be used in such a way that we can survive also with the amount that is needed to survive, and we can conserve or preserve it for the future generations also to be able to use those uh, uh, environmental resources that are needed for survival. We have to think for our future generations. We cannot just think for ourselves just now. We will come and go, but there are our children, our children's children, further their children down, generations. It is going to be very difficult for them to live if the resources are not maintained, are not sustained. Sustenance means कि उनको इस प्रकार से इस्तेमाल करना कि वो रह पाए, वो डिप्लीट ना हो, वो हमारी अर्थ से बिल्कुल वैनिश ना करें, वो सस्टेन्ड रहें हमारे अभी के लिए, हमारे अभी जीवन के लिए और आगे के बच्चों के लिए या आगे की जनरेशंस के लिए, और उनको भी उतने ही बेनिफिट्स हों और लाइफ को वो उसी तरीके से जी सके जिस तरीके से हमने एंजॉय किया है अपने सराउंडिंग्स को और अपने नेचुरल रिसोर्सेस। अब से बहुत साल पहले तो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज वर इन अबंडेंस, किसी को चिंता ही नहीं थी कि हमारे रिसोर्सेज का क्या होगा, कभी खत्म भी होंगे कि नहीं। बट इंसान क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन वाइज बहुत इंक्रीज हो रहा है एंड इट इज नेचर ऑफ ह्यूमन मैनकाइंड to take advantage of situations and make the most out of any situation, irrespective of the fact that what is going to happen in the future. So then what happens is people only think of today and they do not think that there is going to be a tomorrow. But we must think for a tomorrow because everybody has a right to survive and have access to these resources that were given for every human being, every living organism as free and to use as much as they want, provided they do not exploit it, provided they do not deplete it, provided they do not finish it. So all these things are needed, and that can be done through one source that has come into existence for the time being, that is called sustainable development. कि हम तो डेवलप होते जाएं आज भी और कल की जनरेशंस भी डेवलप रहे, हमें भी कोई फर्क ना पड़े, हम भी जीवित रह सके और एंजॉय कर सके और आगे की जनरेशंस भी कर सके। तो इस प्रकार की सस्टेनेबिलिटी की जरूरत। तो वो कैसे होगा, उसका भी तो कुछ हमें करना पड़ेगा। उसके लिए we will have to start planting trees. We will have to start working on our forests, on our farming, on greenery around us. We need to start doing rainwater harvestation because we need to conserve water, because water will also soon become an exhaustible resource if we are not careful. Maybe 20, 30 years down the line, we may be still there. You children are young, you may be still there. And there will be no water for us to survive. And we cannot survive without air, water, oxygen, light. We cannot. Food. It's a food chain. It's a cycle. Everything is connected to one another. If we have air, we need that air for survival. If we are breathing oxygen, we need our plants and trees. We need water to get oxygen. Carbon dioxide is not meant for human beings, for living organisms. It has to be consumed. And who consumes it? The plant life, trees, forests. So we have to keep in mind that our ecosystem, our ecological balance is sustained. Now, what is ecology? What is ecology? Ecology is the study of the relationship between living organisms. ये जो हम साथ रहते हैं ना एक दूसरे के, ये हमारा एक दूसरे के साथ जो सस्टेनेंस है और सर्वाइवल है, इसको इकोलॉजी कहते हैं। और ये हमारा रिलेशनशिप है। इकोलॉजी क्या है? हमारा रिलेशनशिप है हर उस जीवित चीज से जो हमारे इर्द गिर्द रहते। And we all relate to each other in some way or the other, and we all survive also because of each other. And the environment has to be taken care of. Environment is also known to be ecology because the environment, ecology and environment, they may be two names or two sides of one coin. So we have to sustain our environment. We have to sustain our ecology, ecological balance. हमारा बैलेंस लिविंग चीजों के साथ आज हम जीवित रह ले और चीजें जीवित ना रहे, ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता। खाना कहाँ से मिले, हमें ऑक्सीजन कहाँ से मिले, पानी कहाँ से मिले, सनलाइट कहाँ से मिले? वो जो ऊपर हमारा ब्लॉकेज ट्रैपिंग सिस्टम शुरू हो गया है, द ग्रीन हाउस इफेक्ट, the gases that are getting accumulated there. A time will come when they will gradually, they're already shifting towards the surface of the earth, but they will come down in so much of an immense quantity that not only will all living organisms besides human beings get extinct or die, but so shall we. So what is the use of having industries developing so much, but not taking care that we ourselves are advancing also and regressing also? We are advancing in science and technology, in our industries, but we are regressing also because we are losing out on our natural resources. So it is very important for us all to understand or even watch and maybe educate as many people as we want. Today, this topic of discussion has been brought into existence today as a topic of discussion because there are many, many children who know what is environment, who know what is ecology, who know what is natural resource, but who do not know that everything is a combination and everything is correlated and cannot exist without each other. So the first step that has to be taken by us all is to keep a check on the pollutants that we let out into the environment, into the ecosystem, into the atmosphere of the earth. And who are the biggest contributors of these pollutants actually? They are the industries. We cannot alone single-handedly pollute the air by letting in, because it's a combination of usage of resources. Every factory, every industry, every production house has their own means of usage of material. So every material, when put together as a combination, combined, will let out some pollution. And that pollution needs to be taken care of. That pollution needs to be either purified or taken to a level where, when we are advanced already so much, we can purify it also and then let it out, maybe into water, or maybe find out new ways of how to get rid of or dispose of pollutants that come out through various sources of industrialization and production, manufacturing. We are deviating from our surrounding. We need to really, really take a very huge, large, quick step before it is too late. I'm sure you would not like to witness. 20, 30 years down the line, we may be the people also who will witness a lot of changes. And the ecosystem, the environment is changing drastically. Haven't you noticed that we don't drink water from the streams or from a river? We buy water and we drink. We buy mineral water, or we put aqua guards in our house so that the water becomes pure, so that we don't fall ill. So this is one living example that you know of that has already started for being needed as a requirement. A time will come that you will not be able to afford to buy a single liter of water. And do you know one thing? That 1 liter of toxins or pollutants is equivalent to 8 liters of pure water. 1 liter. So do you imagine that if you are letting and releasing thousands and thousands of liters of toxins and pollutants into water or maybe into the open, you are polluting 8 times the amount of pure water. So I think as of today, I've given you a brief insight. I don't know whether it was brief or not, but I try to keep it as brief as possible. So this subject is such a vast subject that it is endless talking about it. But for you, it is just a topic of discussion to be known, because this subject is related to law also. That, I think, when you are in class, your teachers will be able to help you and guide you that how is industrialization, pollution, or anything about the world's resources, is it related to law? Time will tell you. And you will get to know reasons how it is related. So for today, I think I've spoken enough. I hope I have not said things that could have been wrong, or to whatever my knowledge is, I have passed it on to you. There could be certain changes that have already come in the sustainable development or more other developments also. But today, this was the prime topic of discussion. That is why we discussed only these points that we discussed. Thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me. And it was such a pleasure to be able to. I
Thank
also
you.
got educated a lot in teaching and getting to know so many things that I did not know. So it was a pleasure to be a part of this curriculum today. So thank you, sir.
Thank
Suresh,
you.
sir,
Thank you,
it was
ma'am.
always a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
see you on screen.
Thank,
Ma'am,
thank
you
you.
are an inspiration for all your students, for
Thank
me
you.
especially, and you shall always. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
ma'am, for
Thank you.
thank you for thank you for this great session, and we are deeply indebted to you, ma'am, for sharing your vision on the topic, and thank you for your scholarly views on the topic. I also extend my thanks to Dr. Dipakshi ma'am, head of
Thank you.
RBI Life, for organizing this lecture. Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, and I also convey to thanks to all the participants. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again.